item, it will read the data from that file. We have created a file item.json, my item.json, and after that it is checking the length. If there is a data, that meaning length is greater than 0, then update item. Update item, what it says? Update item says like take the data from the API and pass to item list. Because update item is a hooks function, and using that only you can change any value under the item list. So as soon as you click on button, data will come from here, go to the update item. From update item, it will go to the item list. And immediately, as soon as the data will go to the item list, below we have one map function is waiting for that. As soon as the data will come into the item list, the loop will start and it will print the list of items. Another function we have written, that is called get user. Get user, what it will do? Get user will go to the, using fetch function, it will send a request to this API URL. And after that, from this URL, whichever the response will come, will capture under the my response. Since my response will be actual JSON data, it will not be in the form of object. So we have to convert into array object so that we can run the loop. So this line is doing the same thing, converting from JSON to array object. Finally, after converting here, you cannot get the actual array object. Conversion will happen, but again, you have to apply the second then function. Then only you can receive the list of array, what is built here, object array. So we created another user array, and then finally we checked if the data is greater than 0, the array have the length. Yes, if it has the length, then take the array and pass to the update user. Update user data will go from update user, it will come to the user list. Right after that, I have given you one function called car list. Have you tried anyone? If you have tried, can you share me the code once? What we have written under the get car function and what you have written under the HTML part. Both quickly you can send in chat. I will also use the same code. And then we'll move for the next level. You can use any keyword. There is no limitation on that. Keyword is your own wish. Now after that, once data will come here, and HTML I required. Map, car.price, car.model. car.model. After that, car list is the name of the array. Get car function should call here. Now on load, it should give me the data, and that data will be sent to the state variable. From a state variable, it will come inside the page. Ten users came. This data also came. See, list of the car plus price both are coming. If you click here, then first array will appear. Right. So this data we are reading from the other server. This data we are reading from other server. Next, what we required is, like we need to create our own server. There we can store the data, we can read the data, we can delete the data, we can update the data. Okay. So for that we have to install the JSON server and we have to set up our own server. So let's come next. Then use effect. What is the use of the use effect? It's a simple function. It's like the onload. In JavaScript, we have a function called onload. Onload function get execute automatically. Onload function get execute automatically. On page load, it will execute automatically. Similar with this function, use effect also get executed automatically on load. As soon as your page will load, it will execute automatically. Okay, now let's come to your project folder. Out of project folder. Okay, so this is the project folder. Now out of project folder, here. Okay, you can create another folder called JSON API. Create another folder called JSON API. So now you are getting the data from other source. This data is coming from, this is coming from a JSON file. This is coming from one server. This is coming from the other server. So if you are bringing the data from other server, that is also fine. You can bring only, you cannot post because those kind of API is not there. So we can create our own server, and in our own server, we can add data, we can fetch the data, we can delete the data, we can add the data. Everything can be possible. So for that, we have to set up a mock server. That mock server is called a JSON server. JSON server should not be inside the React project. It should be outside of the React project. Okay, so JSON server will work like a backend, and the project one will work like a front end. Then in the backend JSON server, your data will store not in database but in file system. Data will store in that file in the file system. Okay, now let's come to the JSON server folder and open the CMD. Open CMD, write in that npm install -j JSON minus server, JSON hyphen server minus, right? npm install -j JSON hyphen server. npm install -j JSON hyphen server. Okay, hope it's going on. Meanwhile, in this JSON API folder, create a file. In the JSON API folder, create a file, give the file name data.json. data.json. Come to the data.json file. Open the curly bracket, close the curly bracket, and inside that is going to work like a object, JSON object. Right here, user list colon square bracket, one more company list square bracket. Okay, hope to read user list as well as company list. This hope this installation is also completed. Mine is going on still. Don't know. I have already in my system. Okay, come next. In this file, we are going to store the data in multi-dimensional array. Something like this. So here concept is this file is just like the array. This file is just like the array. Okay, in this array, we will add the data through the JSON server. Data will come from the React, and again we'll delete the data from here using JSON server. A request will come from the React. We can update the data here using JSON server, but request will come from the React. Okay, so since the backend we have not covered, so in that case we have to implement the API. So how to write and how to implement? So for that, JSON server is the best option. In the future also, if you are implementing the any live server, Java, Python, PHP related, then you don't have to much modification. Request remain same. Get, post, update, delete, request will be same. Only the changes will happen. Maybe some username, password you have to pass. Maybe some kind of other authentication details you have to pass, but the process will remain same. Now we'll go here. So this user list becomes the array, company list becomes the array, and inside the array we are going to store the data in nested array format, something like this. Let's come. Curly bracket open close. Right there, ID. ID is compulsory here. Okay, ID, the word should be ID only, should not be something else. Name, some name you can give. While age, education, written. Now copy, keep one more here. ID will be 2, then Ramesh, years, this year, remove last comma. Add this too. I will share in the chat also. Here will not add manually, it will come from the React side, but for testing purpose, we are adding this. In the company list, we can go. Here also we can create one ID. One, name of the company, city of the company, employee of the company, one record we added, let it be. Okay, so hope I read it here. Yes, so you can see under the user list, we have added the 2 user details. Under the company list, we added only 1 company details. You should avoid the last comma. Now this JSON file is ready. We have to compile this file using the JSON server. Meaning we need to start the server. Okay, which server? JSON server. we need to start the JSON server. Okay, so how to start the JSON server? Let's go to the same CMD that you have opened under the JSON API folder. In the JSON API folder, you have CMD opened. Go there. How to start the JSON server? You can make a note somewhere. In the data.json file, don't write any extra line. No comments, no any special character, no semicolon in the last. Okay, in this file, you don't write any comment. If you write comment, JSON will get breakdown. So here only data, only contents. Comments you can write in some other file. Now in the JSON API folder, CMD was open for you. If you have not opened, you can open again. And you can make a note in some other file how to start the JSON server. That is like this. JSON-server space minus watch. JSON-server space minus watch. JSON-server space minus watch. Your file name that is called data.json space on which port number you want to run the server, because when the server start it will have a port number. So the port number we have to decide from here using the minus port. You can give any number, 4 digit, 1 2 3 4 I have given. You can take photo also further. You can use in case if sometime confusion will happen. Okay, hope ready. Enter. Now this file will get compiled. Hope you got the URL like this. Localhost :1234 user list. Localhost :1234 company list. We'll go to the browser and we'll run this URL. Localhost :1234 user list. Something like this. Data is coming. If you want to access all the data, we have to call this URL in the React. If you want to access the particular data, we have to pass here slash number, the ID what we have passed. Suppose I'll pass as a 2. It will give me only those record that ID is 2. You can see here, will pass as a 1. It will give only those record that ID is 1. It will not pass anything from here. It will give all the records. Hope similar. Okay, next we need to come to the React, and in React we need to call this URL. Check in your computer, there is a permission problem. Find out on internet how to give the permission, because once you do any installation, it will create a folder. If it is Mac computer, you have to give permission, or if it is the office laptop also, their permission will be required. So permission problem, JSON, not JSON problem, JSON server problem. Okay, next after that, so this JSON server, live server is listening now on port number 1234. So this URL will give to React, and React can get the data and display here. Okay, so for that we'll create a separate file. Let's come. Under the hook, you can create the next file. Add.js, add user. Add user.js, not add user, user list. User list.js, the hooks folder only. User list.js. User.js file is ready. Now come inside. Import React on React. Use state we should call here. Const user list. container empty 4. List from JSON API. Now let's go here. Call the const or user use state array. Use state we have called. We need to call one more call use effect also, so that on load the data will come. Go here, write another constant. Fetch. In fetch you have to pass this URL, user list URL that JSON server was running. Next, after that, dot then response dot JSON you have to use because data is coming in JSON format. Dot then user array. Again below you will check if user array dot length greater than 0. It's compulsory to check the length. If you will not check the length, then if data will not come from API, it will throw the error. If length greater than 0, then only call the update user. Under update user, you pass the user array. Okay, hope ready. Next, after this, come down below. You have to call the use effect so that on load this function will get called. While calling use effect, that syntax is little different. Come inside use effect. You can call inside get user function. But how many times you want to call the get user function? You have to limit here. Else what will happen? Your JSON server, the get use effect will start calling continuous. You will not get proper data if you start calling continuous. So limit is required every time. On load, most of the functionality should happen only one time. So limit is required. We have to pass the limit over there. Next, after this, we can use the length here. On user dot okay, user list from the JSON API. Now we can create a table here. Class name table hyphen bord and also empty3 head tr class name right text primary th user id full name std what other details we have name mobile age education name mobile number age education body will start user dot map user for my index also return tr index td we can write user of id. The ID you have created in JSON file, that ID you are printing here. User dot name. In the JSON server we have created, that we are printing here. User dot mobile user dot age user dot edu. Now we'll come to the app.js file. Hope tbody to tbody is ready. This ID name mobile age edu is coming from the JSON file. This is ID name mobile age edu coming from the JSON file. In app.js file we can come and we can import that. What is the name of the component? User list. User list from user list.js file. Then you can add a link here. Add user. Not add user. User list. User list. Will come down.
నో కార్తికేయ, అది నీ ఊహ. నువ్వు చెప్పింది ప్రూవ్ చేయడానికి నీ దగ్గర ఎవిడెన్సెస్ లేవు. అలా జరగలేదని చెప్పడానికి ఎవిడెన్సెస్ నా దగ్గర ఉన్నాయి. ఏం ఎవిడెన్స్?
Path is user list. It will call here user list capital. It will give the list of users from the JSON server. Two users we have added, both are coming. You can start the server, go here and use this. You are not running the local server. This is running in your computer, no? You can access that URL. This data is coming from the JSON server. We will add a link here called add user. Click on that, another page will open. There we can add a new user. We'll design a form, we'll fill the data. It will come to the again listing page. Here we'll provide a delete button, edit button, all operation will be done. Check once, loading for how many people? These all are the main functionality of React. You should not ignore it. Okay, because React is the front-end technology, and then in front-end you cannot store data. Data will come from the back-end. So for that purpose, you must need to implement the API properly. Okay, so I will share you this file userlist.js in the chat. That is available under the hooks folder. Oh, file is not able to send. Pool SRC folder is in the chat. Complete JSON API folder is in the chat. You can use the same folder also if there is a lot of error. Tomorrow we have project class again, so we'll update the timing. You can log in again in the morning.